'Twas the hour before puck drop, and all through the arena. I'm not good at making up this on the spot. Welcome, everyone, to the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network here at Center Ice. I am Nick. Unfortunately, Brit is not going to be joining us for this last off-season episode of the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network. It is unfortunate, and obviously with the timing of this episode, things just couldn't gel, unfortunately. So we miss her, and we hope to have her back for the next episode. So, that being said, my fellow Avalanche fans, we can all take a deep breath because the regular season is here. It is upon us. Puck drop is just a little over an hour away for those of you that are watching this at the correct time. And it's exciting. It's finally here. And all the off season that we were trying to put stuff together, content to be made, it all finally gets to be worth it because the regular season, the 2025-2026 regular season is here. So that being said, we can finally get into our regular routine of things. I have all the social media posts ready to go for this season. Game days, obviously final scores will have to be kind of the ad-lib part, but all the game day stuff is ready. So you're going to see a lot more of the social media posts. I apologize again. I put that totally on the back burner during the off season and even toward the end of the last season. So I do greatly apologize about that. But you're going to have it. And that's going to be the exciting part, is that we're going to try and get back into the swing of things, into regular season form for this game. Now, that being said, before we get into the nitty-gritty, don't forget to like and subscribe, follow the MHRT Network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can do so on the various social media platforms of your choosing. And if you want to follow us, we ask that you do so at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Okay, so let's walk through this step by step first. And I think the first step that we need to go on is the age-old question, who is on the opening night roster? Well, they luckily posted that at the time of this recording on the 6th, so the night before. They luckily posted that today. And some interesting names showed up that I think is really interesting. But before I get into the actual roster, there are 6 on the non-roster. I believe mostly it's injury related or holdouts or something to that extent. But there are 6 on the non-roster that can be rosterfied, I guess is the way to put it. But they are as follows: Sean Behrens, Ronnie Attard, Jacob McDonald, Logan O'Connor, and the recently picked up Ilya Solovyov. Obviously, the big one out of that one, Logan O'Connor. We know why, injury. So that's not much of a surprise. But for the rest, I know with Ilya Solovyov, he just got picked up off of waivers. So that's kind of a reason for him not being he's on the roster, the non-roster roster, I guess is one way to put it. But the rest of them, I believe it was for AHL purposes. I can't recall exactly right off the top of my head, but those are the non-rosters. Now, for the main roster, the goalies, and keep in mind there's 3 of them, because obviously with the roster size that you have, you can have 3. Mackenzie Blackwood, who I believe is coming off of the injured list, but they're still going to label him as a goaltender for the opening night roster. Scott Wedgwood, naturally, and Trent Miner. Been very impressed with Trent Miner, especially in those preseason games that he played. I was very impressed with the way he played. I've been able to see him a couple times live with the Utah Grizzlies, and I've been just really impressed with the kid. I mean, he's not the tallest kid out there, obviously, but he's got just the great hockey IQ. So honestly, good for him. He'll probably spend a good chunk of time down in the minors, obviously, but he is going to be one of the 2, if my understanding is correct, one of the 2 goaltenders currently in LA. Scott Wedgwood, I believe, is getting the nod, and Trent Miner will be the backup while Mackenzie Blackwood recovers. I saw that he was able to take some certain exercises that he wasn't a couple of weeks ago or even a week ago. So he looks to be progressing along pretty well. So expect Scott Wedgwood and Trent Miner for now to be the tandem at the beginning of the season. But your three goaltenders, like I said, Mackenzie Blackwood, Scott Wedgwood, and Trent Miner. So moving on to defensemen. For the opening night roster, we have 7 of them. Obviously, 6 will play, but there are still 7 of them. Devon Taves and Cale Makar. Comes to a shock to nobody. Sam Girard and Josh Manson. Now, Sammy G was on the ice for a preseason game, so he's back. He's ready to go. So that's great news for the Blue Lines to be able to have them back. So Sam Girard, Josh Manson, Sam Malinsky, Brent Burns. Again, not much to a surprise. Those 6 that I labeled are going to be your kind of main group. But they also labeled Jack Achan, or is Akan. I think it's Akan, actually. Jack Akan, to the 7th defenseman, which is very impressive. And to be fair, he had a great outing in preseason, and they get rewarded as such. There was even, once we get to the forwards, I have to eat some crow eventually here on some things that I had said about people that are taking in roster spots and stuff like that. I have to eat some crow. And honestly, hats off to these kids that put in the effort and it goes rewarded. Now, obviously, being the 7th defenseman, there, injury is going to happen, so you're the next guy in, but you to still make the roster in and of itself is impressive. It's really impressive. So that's the Blue Line. Not a lot of comments there. We kind of already saw it coming. Now it gets to the interesting part. Now, this one is in no particular order. I believe it's actually numerical order that I'm going to be reading these. So forwards. Brock Nelson and Val Nichushkin. Parker Kelly, Jack Drury, Ross Colton, Nathan McKinnon, Gavin Brindley, Arturi Lehkonen, Marty Necas, Gabe Landeskog, Zakhar Bardakov, Joel Kiviranta, and Victor Olofsson. Now, if you read through those names, or if you listen through those names, there are 2 that immediately stick out to you, and 2 that I had not put down for taking a roster spot. Blown on the open. I didn't have them in the roster. So to them, I apologize. I am very sorry. I was wrong. In that preseason that they had, they were lights out. They were incredible. Brindley had several goals. Bardakov had some goals of his own, but both of which really played well, especially down the stretch where they were making cuts. They were doing okay, just very good. And if you notice, there are 2 that aren't on this opening night roster that I thought were going to be on the roster, and that was Ivan and Nikita Prishkapov, both of which sent down to the AHL. Not rather early, but earlier than I was anticipating. I thought for sure they'd be in the kind of in the running up until the very end. So, no, hats off to Zakhar and to Gavin. They played great, and this is going to be a time for them. Obviously, with 13 forwards, only 12 of them are going to be playing, so there's the one odd man out. But that means one of those 2 is going to be in, and they have the chance to make a name for themselves, despite being a probable 4th line. They have this chance to go and create something. They have this chance to go and be someone, starting small, but eventually they'll grow into a role or a solidified position or whatever it is. But I have to say how impressed I have been with those two. So I'll like I said, I'll take my licks. I'll take whatever hate comments come my way for being absolutely wrong, and that's okay, because these two deserve it more than anything. But other than that, as far as other names, the big sigh of relief moment is Gabe Landeskog being on that roster, Val Nichushkin being on that roster. And honestly, just looking at this roster as a whole, it's great. Like I am extremely pleased with it because the depth is there. Barring Logan O'Connor, barring Mackenzie Blackwood briefly, you have everyone. You have everything you need to start the season off remarkably strong. And it goes to show. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this team, this opening night roster, whom I guess it'll carry over from LA, then to at home against Utah. My guess is, I mean, it's going to be fun. It's going to be great. And I'm excited because this packs so much firepower and so much leadership, so much experience from everyone. Like I look up and down the roster, there is not one, place that I have a concern with, not even with a potential fourth line spot with either Gavin Brindley or Zakhar Bardakov. I'm happy with that because they've proved that they can play, that they are not a burden. They're willing and able, basically. And that's something you can't coach, let alone ask for or demand. They have it already instilled in them. So really, I'm excited. I'm really excited for this roster. Lines, I think, are going to be the exact same that we've talked about, and same with pairings, goaltending tandems, all throughout the thing. So not really a bunch of new news there. However, I do want to go over just some last-minute season items before they take to the ice here in what would be probably a little under an hour for you guys that are watching at the correct time. And it is, so I actually, let me pull up the list. I made a list, and I should probably use it. So, all right. First one I have, and this one I have probably beat to death. I don't know how many times, but it still stands for itself, and it even happened in the preseason. Granted, not everyone was playing at the same time. I understand that, but it still happened in the preseason. And that is face-off wins. Oh my gosh. If there is one thing that is going to be the death of me from this team, the Colorado Avalanche team that I've known for I don't know how long, it's face-offs. You need to win the face-off battle at least half your games, which that even feels like a far cry to say that. It feels like we barely get to even a quarter, if that. You need to win the face-off battles. And I've said this before, and I'll reiterate. To me, face-offs, if you lose a face-off, to me that's the same as a turnover or a giveaway. Right? It means you no longer have possession of the puck, which means you don't have scoring or playmaking abilities when you don't have the puck. Now, I get it. There are teams out there that are just flat out good at taking faceoffs. There are players out there that are just flat out good at taking faceoffs, and you cannot beat them, right? I understand that. However, you need to do better than just like in the 30s as far as percentile. Like you got to get it closer to 50-50, right? I'm okay with maybe like a 45-55. That's okay. But that still indicates that the other team would have won more faceoffs than you, which means out of all the faceoffs you take in a game, which is quite a number, that means that the majority of them got to fall into the possession of the opposing team. Like I said before, to me, it's a turnover. It's a giveaway, right? It's taking away that opportunity for you, your team, the Avalanche that we know, to go out and score, to create chances, maybe even draw a penalty. You don't know. because you don't have that possession. And that's what I think is so key. And especially down the road where you're in these close games, right? These 3-2, 1-0 games where it's very late in the third period and you have to win this face-off. They have another extra man out there. There's all kinds of these scenarios where face-offs become one of the single most important things, but you might as well take that same mentality and apply it to the entirety of the game. All 60 minutes, not just the last 5, not just the last, 6, 7, 8. You need to apply it to the entirety of the game. So that's going to be my one big housekeeping item, or just as a reminder, have them get better. I don't know what to call it, but they need to get better at face-offs. That's one of them. The other one, which falls into the same category, and I believe I talked about it in the same episode or episodes, and that's battles along the board, right? When you're pinned up against the boards, it just feels like a lot of the time you tend to lose those. When the puck's smashed against the board, their sticks grabbing it and trying to move it and maneuver away. The Avalanche need to do a better job. At least they didn't last season. Sorry. But they need to do a better job of winning those scrums against the boards. You need to get a man on either side. You need to or post up against a guy or whatever it is, because that's another place where puck turnovers happen quite frequently. When someone smashes against the boards or there's a dump pass that circles around and two guys come converging on it and it gets plastered against the wall, it's a free puck basically, and that is the same to me as like a face-off. Losing those types of situations just means that you either have to go on your forecheck or back check, which luckily we have very good forecheckers with Arturi Lehkonen and Val Nichushkin, or you have to regain possession of the puck, and it's especially more lethal against you if it's in your defensive zone, because if they pull it out and are able to do a quick cross-ice pass, that's an opportunity for them to score, right? That leaves it now for your goaltender to have to go and make a save. And it's a dangerous, it could be a high danger chance, I guess is how I wanted to say that. So that's going to be another big ticket item for me, is going to be that face-off, right? Is going to be, or not the face-off, I'm sorry. Still on that face-off mood. Is those scrums against the boards, battle for possession. So those are two big ones. Another largish one that I've come to terms with, kinda, but I'm still kind of iffy about the whole thing, and that is going to be the power play, right? Luckily, because you have Marty Necas on that top power play unit, you're going to be taking more shots, which is great, right? But my worry is that either he will fall too comfortable with the Avalanche current system. I don't exactly know what Dave Hackstall has in mind for the special teams power play units. But I'm hoping he doesn't fall in Marty Necas. I'm hoping he doesn't fall into that same rhythm of like just typical Avalanche. Pass it around, look for the right spot, look for the right this, look for the right that. Take the shot. Take a shot. Like, we have Gabe Landeskog back. We have Val Nichushkin. We have Brock Nelson. Those guys all can get into the gritty, grimy goals, the putbacks, the tip-ins. You name it. You fire it, they can put it in. We have the ability and the manpower and the IQ from the players to do that. So that's going to be my big, I guess, ask, is that they just shoot. They don't have to look for the perfect shot. They don't have to look for the perfect opportunity, the perfect window. They just need to find an opportunity, a window, a chance. Like, that doesn't have to be perfect. And if they do, I can almost guarantee with the persona that's out there, with the power play unit, or even second power play unit that's out there, put back goals can be a thing easily. Okay. So that's going to be my big kind of hold on to your hats. The numbers spoke for themselves last season, and like I said, to that I did have to kind of give flowers where they were due and even apologize a little bit. So that's why I'm not overly anxious, because if you're still top 10 in the power play, you're okay, right? You're okay. Equally as important, and I believe this is going to fall in line with what I've already been talking about from the last few episodes, goaltending. Now, obviously, we're starting the season with Scott Wedgwood, Trent Miner, obviously, but eventually that's going to filter out, not too distant future, to the lumberyard of Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood, both of which I am very excited to see them start the season out on a high note, right? And you need to, because it becomes the earlier in the season games that end up biting you in the butt toward the later season. I used to not kind of be much of a believer that, where I was like, oh yeah, you get your bearings, everything's fine, which it could be still, right? But it became apparent to me, especially last season, when the Avs started the season, really, really rough. And ultimately, it led to trading away 2 goaltenders, getting 2 new ones, and all of a sudden, the tide just shifted. And we had a great, record going down that last stretch. We did a very good job. So with the goaltending, I feel like the save percentage naturally is going to rise. Just the average save percentage from the team is going to rise. I'm not too concerned with it, but it is going to be very important to me to see them start off these first, say, 20 to 21 games. First quarter of the season really kind of takes you to the end of November. To see that start out strong. That's what I'm also going to be paying attention for. Okay. Now, that being said, those are kind of my cautionary / I don't want to say panic button, but just really try to do your best moments. But now I have some on the list that I am actually really excited for. Let me take a drink real fast and I'll let you know what that is. All right. So, as far as my excitement for certain things, the more I watched Brett Burns, this is a one player thing. The more I watched Brett Burns, the more excited I became to have that kind of experience, that kind of leadership, that kind of whatever you want to call it on the blue line, let alone the third pairing, which might not be all the time. But boy, was it fun to just see Brett Burns in an Avalanche uniform. Now, I've been a fan of his, ever since his San Jose days. I have a couple of his jerseys from the Sharks. Like, I love the guy already, right? I already knew that this was exciting, which is why I was like kind of giddy and, just piddling my pants a little bit when he signed with the Avs. But that doesn't mean, because he's on the third line, that his responsibilities are going to change. And he's kind of taken it right in stride, to be honest with you. He seems to have that same oomph, that same grit and tenacity, that same strength that he's always played with. And now he's just paired with Sam Malinsky, who's coming into his own. He's great. And I think it's going to be an excellent D pairing to watch. But as far as Sam Burns personally, I'm excited to see, because he's a very defense first kind of guy, but he also has that hockey IQ where he can score pretty well as well. So that's exciting. I'm very excited for that. I have confidence. This one, it's a watch him do it, I guess, type of thing. For him to just go and be that Stonewall, that last line of defense that Mackenzie Blackwood can trust, that Scott Wedgwood or Trent Miner can trust when it comes to maybe these odd man rushes or they're trying to stop a breakaway. I know Burns is old, but he still has some fight in him, right? And that's what I'm excited for, because it has that leadership, it has that veteran presence, and ever since the departure and retirement of Eric Johnson, you were probably going to miss. So he brings that to the team. I'm very excited for Brett Burns personally. Another thing I am excited for is the points production. Now, obviously, Nathan McKinnon, I'm almost 100% certain is going to get above 100 points. Cale Makar could very well, if he just steps it up a notch. I mean, it was a down season for him last year, and he had like what, almost 90, somewhere around there. Like, he had a ton of points, despite us thinking he had a bad year, right? So Cale Makar, if he's on point, if he is sharp, he could get past 100 points, which would be just outrageous. It'd be excellent. Marty Necas could be in that 80, 90 point range as well. You know, he's going to be up there. And the rest of the depth, to be honest with you, if they play their roles, and this is as far as points production is concerned, if they play their roles to the fullest and take weight off of the top six, I'll say, every single one of them has the chance to be this 30, 40 point player. And that's saying a lot, right? Even the new ones like Gavin Brindley, Zakhar Bardakov can get to that 20 point range, in my opinion, seemingly flaw free, and they can do more. Every single one of these players, these depth pieces, can do more. I mean, you look at that fourth line, it's Parker Kelly, it's Jack Drury, and it's, say, for now, Zakhar Bardakov or Gavin Brindley, I guess. That's your fourth line, right? Imagine now a step up, and then a step up from that, and then your top line. The depth here is fantastic, and that's why I am very confident that this depth can come out scoring at a remarkably high clip. Now, that doesn't mean every game. There's going to be those duds. There's going to be those games where it's like an ugly win, but a win nonetheless. But I have confidence that it's going to rival that same kind of mentality that the cup winning team had back in 2022, where effectively the rule was if you scored 4 goals, you won the game. And they got to 4 goals a lot, and they won those games a lot. Not all of them, but I'd say 90%, 85, 90%. So that's one thing where I want to have everyone's attention on that production, not only from your top 6, but your bottom 6, right? Your big guys, your top guns are always going to score. That's not a surprise. The big if, or I guess not if, but the eyes are going to be on Gabe Landeskog. First year back in 3 years, is going to start the season. It's very exciting. All of this is very exciting. So it's going to be interesting to see where he slots, how he slots. I think based off of the preseason where he was literally beating the crap out of guys, scoring some goals, getting some great hits in, some fights, you know, like, he's going to be fine. It looks like he hasn't lost a step, at least according to the preseason. So that's always comforting. Additionally, in the depth scoring category, or in just the productions category as a whole, I feel like the third line is going to be one to look out for, particularly with currently Kiviranta, Colton, and Victor Olofsson. Because Olofsson had a good chunk of goals himself, and he could have had more had he not had an injury with Vegas last season, right? The third line has a very high potential, right? All lines do, obviously, but that third line is going to be very interesting to watch, because that's where teams, a lot of teams, will either find that top line and then the second line. They're kind of interchangeable for the most part. You can interchange them, though there is kind of a defined top and a defined second. But it's the jump from the second to the third line that some teams have a substantial jump down in production, in play, in ability, in ice time, you name it. But the Avalanche currently, from what I'm seeing, it looks like it could honestly be 1, 2, 3, and then lower-ish, not a ton, 4. That third line is going to be very interesting to see just how the difference in skill can go or carry from the second line to the third line. If it is closer and close, like I am thinking it's going to be, the depth production will be fine. And that is huge for the Avalanche. Like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, it takes away the weight off of the top 6 or even the top line. If the second line isn't doing too hot, it takes that weight off of them. That means that they can take matters into their own hands, right? We saw this last year when Jonathan Drouin was coming back from injury. He was put on the third line, but there were several times where he took matters into his own hands, where he would go and do and score and create a play or get a great setup for a one-time or whatever it is. He was on the third line at the time, right? Paired with Ross Colton or Miles Wood, Joel Kiviranta, Logan O'Connor. He would make those plays to reignite the team. That was Jonathan Drouin. Best of luck, obviously, with the Islanders. Okay, so that's one other item that I say I'm looking forward to. Right now, as far as my confident. What am I trying to say? My confident predictions, I guess we can say. It's this, and we've wrapped this together on previous episodes, but that's why I'm putting everything condensed into one last hurrah before puck drop. In my opinion, the Avalanche are the top, if not for certain, the top 2 team in the Central Division. The only one potentially to get in that way is Dallas. Okay. As far as everyone else, though, I mean, the Central Division is going to be ruthless. It's going to be killer. And we're going to talk about that here in just a second for the upcoming games that we have between this episode and the next. But the Central Division is brutal. Teams are good, right? Teams are good. Nashville could suddenly bounce back. Minnesota could suddenly, not have plagued with injuries and can suddenly be good again. Utah, with their moves that they've made, the Mammoth can be this dark horse. There were people on The Athletic that were calling the Mammoth a Stanley Cup favorite dark horse selection, right? Then you have the Blues. Then you have the Jets, right? You have all 8 teams. I'm not going to really rule out Chicago because who the freak knows? But this this division is tough. My guess, like I said before, is that the Avalanche will occupy the top spot. At worst, the top 2 spots, the second spot, I guess. And if you want my honest opinion, this is me bragging about the Central Division. Now, I think the Central Division takes both wild card spots. And I think it belongs to St. Louis and to Utah. If you want my honest opinion, it could be St. Louis and Minnesota. It could be Minnesota and Nashville. It could be Utah and Winnipeg. Like, it could be anyone, right? But my guess is St. Louis and then Utah taking those spots. And that's just an indication of how tough this division is going to be. Okay. So that's my confident prediction, is that the Avs will win the Central Division, or at worst take second, still getting that home ice advantage. And a lot of that comes down to your depth and how you are able to do early in this season. And obviously down the stretch. I mean, screw it. The season as a whole. I know. Let me go ahead and just wrap the whole thing in one. Another confident prediction that I have. Cale Makar will win his 3rd Norris Trophy this season. I have confidence that becomes a reality. He's going to, for sure, be in, barring an injury, knock on wood. He's going to, for sure, always be in the conversation. I think for sure he's going to be a finalist. But if it's the Cale Makar I know, the Cale Makar we all know, he's going to win that Norris Trophy again. I bet you. I bet you he does. Now, if he struggles, falters, and is out of the conversation, that's on me. My prediction was wrong. I didn't see that coming because I honestly don't think he's going to have a struggling year. But if he plays just the way he always has been, the way he has gone off and chased people like Bobby Orr, He's breaking Tyson Berry's records here in Colorado. If he's playing the way he usually plays, I see no reason to vote against him. I personally think that. My last confident vote. Well, two confident votes is that Nathan MacKinnon will be once again in the Hart Trophy nomination. I'm not going to say exactly how many points he'll get, but it's going to be over 100, but he will be a finalist. And assuming that Mackenzie Blackwood can play healthy and solid and good, don't be surprised to see his name in the Vezina finalist list. That's probably going to be my farthest stretched prediction, but I'm confident that all he needs to do is have a below 3.0 save average and an above 900 save percentage and win games and even save games. Having several shutouts will help, obviously, but if you're able to keep those numbers similar to what Hellebuck was able to do, similar to like Bobrovsky, Vasilevsky some time ago, if you're able to do that, and with the team in front of you, I bet you can. Don't be surprised to see Mackenzie Blackwood's name in the Vezina Trophy finalists list. Now, he's got competition. He'll have Jake Ottinger. He'll have Connor Hellebuck, who just won the Vezina and the Hart. Okay? It's not going to be fun, nor is it going to be easy. Goaltending is by far the one where it's like every team can have suddenly a great goaltender, right? But I bet he can. I'm confident. That's my confident prediction that he will be able to do that this season. Assuming he just plays a solid game, has solid outings every single time, steals games, takes games, he can do it. Okay, we're going to move on to the last little bit now, which are the upcoming games. This is going to be a lot of fun. So, for those of you who are watching at the time of this release, you have a game to play in the Crypto.com arena against the LA Kings. 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time puck drop, nationally televised as one of the 3 opening night games. It's going to be publicly broadcast, like I said, ESPN, great stuff. Here's going to be my key to this game. Okay, let me make sure I got my notes here. Key to the game is going to be this: urgency. And I'm going to say this for those of you who are new to this channel. I say this probably more times than I'm willing to admit. Urgency. Not panic. Urgency. You need to play like this is one of the last games of the regular season and there's position in your division on the line. Or it's, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. However you wish to cut that, you need to play with that same sense of urgency, right? Because immediately these are points paying games, right? Regardless of if they're not in your division, regardless if they're not even in your conference, 2 points are on the line, right? That's important stuff. Okay. With a team like this, though, I don't think it's going to be that much of an ask to say play with urgency. We know MacKinnon already can turn it on and off. We know that Makar can take matters into his own hands. Landeskog, now that the captain's there, he'll be urging and kind of getting on people to play with that urgency. Now, LA is currently, in my opinion, a fringe team. Could be in the playoffs, could not be, right? Especially since, in my opinion, 2 of those wildcard spots, or both of those wildcard spots, are going to a Central Division team. So they're either going to be third or falling just short, but they're still going to be a good team nonetheless. Okay, so besides the key to the game being urgency, I'm also going to add this. All right, let me take one more drink. I talk a lot and it gets my mouth dry. So, okay. So my other key to the game is going to be this: goaltending. Now, obviously, Scott Wedgwood, I'm perfectly happy with. I'm not concerned with his play. What I am concerned with, or I guess what I should say is the key to the game, is going to be the other goaltender, most likely in this case, Darcy Kemper. I know how he plays. We know how he plays. He won the cup with Colorado. Now, granted, a lot of people say that's to the defense in front of him, but he also saved some games for us. Okay. Here's the other thing. He was a Vezina finalist, or he was in the conversation. Actually, yeah, he was a finalist. He was in that discussion the entire time. He played really, really well last season. Now, does that translate immediately to the following season? No, but it sure does give a good indication as to what you think they're going to play like. And this could be a goaltender's paradise where it's going to be a battle of who lets in the least amount of goals. There's going to be great chances from both teams. There's going to be amazing opportunities to score, and it's going to be the question of who's on their toes more, excuse me, in the goaltending aspect. It's going to be I don't want to say an uphill battle, but it's going to be a tough challenge for Scott Wedgwood to match someone to the likes of Darcy Kemper, at least from last season. But he's a still serviceable goaltender, and now you can rely at least on the offensive firepower of the Avalanche. Now, it could be that they both become Swiss cheese and we have ourselves a 6-5 game with 5 minutes left in the third. It really could be. We don't know. But I would like to believe that this one's going to already be tough right off the get-go. In fact, I just watched the majority of LA's team just a couple of days ago while they were here in Utah playing the Mammoth. They had everyone out there, and they looked like a really well-oiled machine, right? They had Anton Forsberg as their goaltender, and he did really well despite a loss. And that's just the backup, right? They didn't bring Darcy Kemper in for any of that. It's going to be tough, but it's going to be fun, right? The more important, I guess, part is that hockey's back, right? You got to be happy for that. So that's going to be the opening night game. Now, the following game is your home opener, and this one is against the Utah Mammoth, the newest kids on the block, now with a name, now with a logo, now with an identity, and now you can officially get some kind of a rivalry name going. I don't know, right? Both teams have my heart. The Avs just have it more, obviously. Thursday, October 9th, 7 p.m. puck drop on Altitude. Home game, like I said. This one is going to be an interesting pace-setting game. You play Utah twice within the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks. Okay? That's going to be interesting because it's going to not only gauge how they have progressed, Utah, in the Central Division versus what they were at last year, but it's also going to be an indication to the Avalanche, to us, as far as just how tough this division is going to be, right? Because if this is Utah, where a lot of people are pegging them at 5th, some 6th, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because they're still going to be around 90 points this season, right? That's going to be a mile marker game and a gauging game just to see how difficult the division really is going to be. So that's going to be my key to the game. It's your first 4-point game. They call it a 4-point game because it's 2 points away from your division rival that go to you. It's your first 4-point game right out of the gate, right? Your home opener, big rivalry, or at least everyone, and I'm trying to pin it as such, and it's going to be interesting because they have a lot of new faces that have come in. Brandon Tanev, Nate Schmidt, JJ Peterka, Vitek Vanacek. It's going to be interesting, okay? And with the up-and-coming likes of Dmitry Simashev, Daniel Boot, and Dragazino, they have also a very good deep team, even though Their top line might not rival yours, but the rest of the depth sandwiches kind of in between the rest of the depth of the Avalanche. So it could really go tit for tat and shot for shot. Okay. They're no longer a team that is just going to roll over, right? As much as it hurts to say, the days of the Arizona Coyotes of them just constantly struggling, you didn't have to worry about them, even though for some reason they were the Avalanche's Achilles heel, are done. Utah, the Mammoth, are this formidable team that means business. And I was even watching a bit from Bill Armstrong, the GM for the Mammoth, that he said they've gone from point A to point B, which is the rebuild. Now they're focusing from point B to point C, C being the cup. They're here for business. They're not going to just roll around and be pushed over anymore. And an early season challenge like this for the Avalanche is going to be not only healthy, but like I said before, a great mile marker of a game to get stuff done. Now, do I think the Avalanche have it in them to get it done? Yeah, I do, right? Utah is still a very young team. There's still a lot for them to learn, although they have an outrageously good young core. And with the addition of JJ Peterka, it's only going to mean that their future stays brighter longer. Okay, he's 23, I believe. He's got a while ahead of him, and he was already a 30-goal scorer already, right? 60 points. He could get to 75 this season. Like, Utah has a great future, and they even could have a great present, right? So it's not going to be easy, but I still think the Avs get it done, and it's going to be a really good momentum driver for them, especially if you're able to roll past those 2 games with 2 wins. Check that off for momentum. You can roll into the next game. So the next game after that is going to be Saturday the 11th against the Dallas Stars. Here we go again, right? 7:30 p.m. puck drop, Mountain Time, also on altitude. There's another one in your division. So they're not going to start you easy. You thought Utah was going to be hard. Well, guess what? Here comes Dallas, the very team you lost to in round 1 in a very heartbreaking game 7. Mikko Rantanen's going to be in town. Okay. It's going to be very interesting. That's my key to the game is Mikko Rantanen. Okay. Just Mikko. This is in a regular season setting. Mikko is no longer in this playoff mark, but there is still that feeling left over of the trade. Whether the sentiments are good, bad, or whatever, it doesn't matter. There is still sentiment there saying, this was my team. I have to go and do well. There's always that urge, right? There's always that sense of, well, I need to do better, right? With Dallas coming in, this could very well be that early indicator for who gets the Central Division. Okay. My key to the game is going to be getting around that defense of theirs. They had a very well put together defense, especially with the likes of Miro Heiskanen leading that charge last season. And it was very difficult to score on them. And granted, it was postseason, but it was very difficult to score on them. And they've retained a lot of people in that same defensive core. Okay. Ottinger, when he's in playoff mode, he's a whole different subject. But in regular season, you can get to him, right? Any team can get to anybody. You need to make it a bad day for the defense first. If you can do that, the goals should be able to come based off of, like I said before, the personnel you have out there and the capabilities they have for redirects, putbacks, those grimy goals, one-timers, rebounds, however you want to slice it, they have that ability. Okay? So that's going to be my key to the game for Dallas. Again, another 4-point game. So that's 2 out of the 3 really early on that you need to go and watch for. Okay? But Dallas will definitely be your how do I want to say this? Your marquee matchup out of all of these that I'm describing. Okay? Next, and this is the last one we'll talk about. You finally go back on the road far across the country to Buffalo, where you will play the Sabres on Monday, October 13th, 10:30 a.m. puck drop. on altitude. Now, my key to the game is this. I dread this game, not because it's against Buffalo, but because it always seems to be in Buffalo at a matinee time, and the Avalanche just don't do well, seemingly, with crossing the country, playing an early game. It just, for some reason, these games always go down to the wire. It's always like a 5-4 game or a 7-6 game, like just outrageously. And it becomes close. Sometimes, I mean, you win most of them, at least you have in recent history, but that doesn't mean you'll win all of them. And that's what scares me, right? So my key to the game is be wary of the time, be wary of the matinee, be wary of the day. It's a Monday, right? So that's your fall, your Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day, for whichever you celebrate. But it's just one of those days where you're just like, I cannot believe this. We're at it again. We're in Buffalo. It's 10:30 in the morning, and the Avs can't score a goal or keep possession of the puck to save their lives. It seems like that's what it is, year in and year out, and it's annoying. It is so annoying. So my key to the game is that. Now, obviously, on paper, you should be able to blow them out of the water. No offense to Buffalo, okay? You should be able to just score on them rather easily. Who knows? Maybe Alexander Georgiev is going to be their goalie at the time, right? But in theory, the game should be easy, but it tends to never be, just because it's a cross-country matinee time and it jet lag or whatever it is, you're tired. I don't know. It just gets you. It gets the team every single time. So that's going to be my key to the game for Buffalo. So we'll go to that point. Okay. At LA for your season opener, versus Utah for your home opener, against Dallas for a potential 1-2 division ranking at the end of the season, and then at Buffalo to face Father Time and the Buffalo Sabres. So, that being said, we're going to run this episode to the ground. It's been fun, and it's going to be fun. I'm excited for this season. A lot of people have the Avalanche pinned highly favorited to win the Cup. I will not blame them, nor will I disagree with them. But you got to start one game at a time. You got to play with urgency for every single game. And we'll go through every single week like we have been every single season. We're going to throw in a few little spicy ads. I guess that sounded very strange. A few things of flair, I guess, is the way I'll describe it. To each episode, right? Just so we can kind of have fun little put-togethers for your guys' interaction, for feedback, stuff like that. We haven't exactly nailed down what, but we've whittled it down to a few. So keep your eyes out for next episode, where we'll actually go through the week and add our little fun tidbits, and we'll see how it fares with everyone. So that being said, thank you everyone for joining me on this episode of the Cluster Puck Podcast, part of the MHRT Network. Once again, if you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe, follow the MHRT Network so you can get notified when shows like the Cluster Puck Podcast go live. You can do so on the various social media platforms of your choosing. And if you want to follow us, we ask that you do so at the Cluster Puck Podcast on Facebook and at Cluster Puck Avs on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. With that being said, breathe, my friends. We're out of the woods. We're into the regular season. Let's just go have some fun. Let's play hockey the Avalanche style. And let's rack up, how about 4 wins this week? All 4 matchups start 4-0. That sounds like a good plan to me. But more importantly, let's just watch some good old-fashioned Avalanche hockey, shall we? As always, have a great rest of the week. And go Avs, go.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down.